Okay, this is an example from my training in neuromuscular therapy. I'm trained in both the St. John's method and the American version. This is an example of a postural chart where you could actually take the measurements of what's high, what's low, and we're going to go through this sort of in a crude way on a whiteboard, but I just wanted everybody to be able to see this. And basically what you would do is whether you see something that is extreme in terms of a tilt or an unleveling, you're going to write on here in such a way that it doesn't really matter even if it's slight. If, for instance, if the right shoulder was high and the left was low, I'm going to be drawing down like that. And if I wanted to denote that it wasn't very much, I might write slight or SL or something like that. You pretty much can form your own type of abbreviations. But the idea is you just want to see what is deviating from that sort of postural plumb line. And I don't use a plumb line anymore. I used to. I think it's a little bit too much, so I just pretty much go against a white wall or a background. There's all kinds of postural charts and things. So anyway, let's go to Brett now, and we're going to start with just a front-on view here. So if you have a client, hey Brett, let's go, such as Brett, it's a lot easier with males because most of them will take their shirts off. If they won't, at least have them go to like a tank top or something where you could get a little better view. If it's a female, if you could get them in a sports bra, that would be great. Some of them are a little bit self-conscious about that, so that might not happen. You might have to just sort of palpate through clothes, and that's okay. You want the client to be as comfortable as they can, because this is sort of an anxiety-producing thing anyway. So what I'm going to have you do first, Brett, is I'm just going to have you take a few steps in place and just go to what feels just sort of comfortable for you. I'm going to have you close your eyes and shrug your shoulders straight up towards your ear. Shrug them up, and then just relax. Just let it go. And then go ahead and open your eyes. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get Brett in his more relaxed posture, his residual posture, not just his image posture. We know Brett is a very big, strong guy, but I want to see how is he when he's just pretty much relaxed. So in this view, I'm going to start up at the head. And so what I can see here is I can see if there's any kind of unleveling. Like for instance, if his head was a little bit tilted there, I would write that down on my chart at the head part, that the left ear was low or the right ear was high, however we want to do it. And then I'm going down. I'm looking at the contour of the traps. Brett's got pretty big traps, so this doesn't necessarily mean that that's dysfunctional. If you had a smaller, thinner, less muscled person and you could see a lot of trap, you might think that they have some sort of a upper respiratory problem. Maybe they're breathing with their traps too much, their levator scapular muscle. So I'm looking at that, and then I'm going to look for unleveling here. And he's actually showing here what you might see in a typical right-handed person. Are you right-handed? He is right-handed. So handedness is going to be a factor. He's got a little bit of a low right shoulder, and the way I'm measuring that is by putting my fingers on the acromion process, which is the little bony knob right on top. Okay, so that's going to give me some sort of an unleveling in the frontal plane. If I want to see if there's a little bit more of a rotation going on here, I'm going to look at the front of the deltoids, or the shoulders. So I can come right up here and put my thumb. Now, he's a little tall. I'd probably get a little chair if I want to get a bird's eye view and look down. But what I'm looking for is if one thumb is more towards me than the other, and I'm seeing this one right here. So he's got a little bit of a rotation. The way I would denote that on my chart is I would draw a circle. I'd scribble in a circle, and for me that means rotation. A line just means a tilt. Okay? So from there I'm moving on down. You can look at the chest contour to see if there's a difference there. Now I think it's normal to have a little bit of asymmetry in muscle development, so that doesn't mean that there's any kind of a dysfunction. So we're moving on down. I'm looking at his arms. What you'll see with a lot of people is you'll see this. You'll see a lot of internal rotation. Now, we don't know what that's coming from yet. We'd have to break that out a little bit. He could just have very tight pronators in the forearm. But he might also have very tight or very short, very toned lat muscles or pec muscles, which are going to internally rotate his humerus. So we don't necessarily know that. All we would do is denote that on our postural sheet. What we'd like to see is somewhat of just the thumb side or the radial side of the hand. And that's very relaxed for me. You might see something like this. That might mean there's a little too much tone in those external rotators. That's a lot less common, but this is what you're going to see a lot of. From here I'm going to move down, and I'm going to try to palpate where his iliac crests are, which if we have a pelvis here, what I'm doing is I'm coming in, and I'm trying to find, Brett, will you hold that for a second? I'm trying to find these points right here to see if we have an unleveling like this. So if I come right in here, and I come in and then down, and of course, this might be jumpy, this might be ticklish, so you have to make sure you have some permission from your client to do this in the first place. And I'm seeing here, just by my view, maybe just a little bit high on the right. Okay, so I would note that as high on the right, low on the left. From here, I'm going to move down. Have you hold the pelvis there again? And I'm going to see what's going on here at this point. This is a hard spot to find on everybody, but it's the anterior superior iliac spine, or ASIS. So I'm going to see if we've got any kind of problem here, which could be just from the tilt, but it might also be from a rotation, which would be this way, sort of an anterior or posterior. So we don't really know what. We'd have to combine it with other tests. So I'm coming right here, and what I have people do, because especially if they have a lot of muscle mass, is I have them bend forward a little bit, so I can hook underneath, and then come up. So straighten up for me, Greg. And then I'm looking right underneath. Is that jumping? No. I'm looking right underneath the ASIS, and I see this one as being a little bit low. Again, I'm not going to make a big deal about this. So I'm just going to mark that down as the ASIS being low. From here I'm going to come down, and I'm going to find the greater trochanters. See if there's anything there. I don't see anything significant. So we'll move down. Brett, I'll have you hold these up for a sec. And you can just take a look at the patella. If someone had, some sort of a real valgus or varus, you might note that. So valgus at the knee would be more like a knock knee, okay, which could be coming from issues at the hip. Or if it was varus, go a little bit more like this position right here, a bow-legged position, you're going to see something like that. So I'm not saying anything really notable there, so I'm going to move down to the feet, which is a very important place to look. You could start at the feet also and move up. And so, first off, I'm just noticing what's the direction of the feet. They're relatively straight ahead. I mean, up to about 5 to 10 degrees is considered, semi-normal, but go ahead and turn the right one out quite a bit more for me. You might see something like that, where there's one foot that's really splayed out. You definitely want to make note of that. Go ahead and put it back where it feels comfortable. So what I'm looking for here is just the overall alignment of the foot and the toes. Are there any deformities in the feet, bunions or hammer toes, things like that? I want to mark that down. And then I'm really looking at what's going on in the arches of the foot. Primarily this medial longitudinal arch right here. Brett actually has somewhat of an arch. He might have a little bit of some issues with the other arches, but he doesn't complain of any foot problems. So, if one were very flat, go ahead and pronate that, and the other one looked fairly normal, I would make note of that. That one of them looks more pronated, the other one might be more supinated. We're not going to, make a big deal of it. We just want to note it. We'll be back in a sec, and we're going to look at a different view.